So, we're very excited that Cordelia Rose is officially 10 months old. And that's super exciting for us because we were sent home from our NICU in October with a 5% chance of making it to her first birthday, which is coming up October 7th. And we're going to throw a huge party, but up until then, we're just going to keep sharing little bits of her life and our experience with trisomy 18, which is a genetic disorder that you don't hear much about, and the things that you do hear aren't that pleasant because it's got its complications. However, I've noticed now that Cordelia actually really loves nature, and she sleeps much better in nature. It's very late at night right now. She's not asleep. But she sure does like sleeping out under the stars and in the RV. And she doesn't even really need her BiPAP as much as she used to, especially not when she's out in nature. So that's super awesome. So yesterday we had an adult day in the woods with some of our close friends, and it was beautiful because obviously the parents of a child like this also need to take some time to care for themselves. And then we brought her in the evening because she loves sleeping in nature. And when we realized that it was also a full moon, we were really excited because I feel that the full moon is a really good time to let go of anything that doesn't actually serve you. So like any limiting beliefs, any emotions that maybe you're trying to avoid or aren't actually benefiting your situation. So an example of that would be fear and anxiety, frustration, anger. Those are the ones I'm prone to. So, I'll just kind of acknowledge that I've had these feelings under the full moon, and then I'll decide that I'm going to let them go. And there's lots of practices and symbolic ways of letting all that go. But what we ultimately ended up doing last night was creating this awesome sculpture with a piece of wood that had been struck by lightning. One of my friends, Gina, found that in the woods. It was very symbolic for her. And a bunch of us had different rocks and crystals and candles. So we placed all the candles. Brittany, actually, our other friend, placed all the crystals along this lightning-struck piece of wood, and we lit some candles. And when I realized Gina had brought red candles, it was super symbolic for me. She's our tarot lady, so she's a bit intuitive, and we all just kind of sense the same things without even having a conversation about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did you know I needed red candles? And the reason that was exciting for me was because while we were in the PICU in Westchester Medical, I overheard some of the nurses talking about how it was a super moon. And I've always followed this belief that the full moon is a good time to really let go of anything that's holding you back. And we were there, I believe, for 2 full moons, and both times I went out and I lit a few red candles to release all of my frustrations and fears because I needed to let that go in order to push forward, right? So that's also a practice I had brought home a few times. I lit some red candles out under the full moon, but then I didn't feel the need to continue that practice. And, life gets hectic with 3 small ones and 2 small businesses. And I had forgot for the past 2 or 3 moons that I would have probably benefit from lighting those red candles and continuing that ritual. But then I was reminded, because divine guidance landed me out in a park under the full moon with some of my most intuitive and spiritual friends alive. So that was really special, and I'm thankful that that happened. And I'm thankful that I have such strong spiritual and religious roots. And I'm thankful that Cordelia is here and that we're going to have a big party for her first birthday.